Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. This is a 10-inch block called Flying Square. It's all squares and rectangles. Here is the diagram, and I have a sample layout quilt here that is 48 blocks. The 10-inch blocks are set 6 across by 8 down, and I'll give you some cutting instructions for that quilt. If you're making a lot of these blocks, you might want to consider strip piecing these, but for one block, I'm just showing the patches that we're cutting. And I will show you some notes down here about if you want to use strips of fabric and how you can get the most out of your strips. So let's look at the patches first. Patch A is a 2-inch by 6-inch finished rectangle. We're going to cut 6.5 inches by 2.5 inches, and we need 4 patches of the background. There are no AccuQuilt dies that will cut this. If you want, you can use your 2.5-inch strip cutter and then use your 6.5-inch square to cut them, or just cut them with your rotary cutter. But there's no die that will cut this size. Patch B is a 2-inch finished square. We'll cut 2.5-inch squares. We'll need 8 patches for the accent fabric and 5 patches for the background fabric. Here are your AccuQuilt dies you can use to cut the square. We're going to first use A and B patches and piece these long rectangles. These will be kind of the sides of the block. And then we're going to piece this 9-patch unit. In this block, I'm going to show you how to sew partial seams, because these are longer. These rectangle with the square are longer than this part, but you'll see when we put the block together, it's really very easy, but they're called partial seams. Here are the fabric notes if you're going to do a quilt. For the background, consider using low volume prints. Make it really scrappy from your stash. And you can consider using jelly rolls or other 2.5-inch strips for the background or the accent fabrics. For the background, 1 strip will make 1 block. And for the accent fabric, 1 strip will make 2 blocks. So if you have 2 strips of the background and 1 strip for the accent fabric, you can make 2 blocks. And here are the number of strips you need for this 60 by 80 quilt here, and the number of binding strips you need as well. This is just going to be simple. Here are the rectangles. This is patch A and the background fabric, and here is patch B, the squares, and the background and the accent fabric. The first thing we're going to do is take the rectangles and then one of the accent fabrics, and we're going to stitch these like this. You'll make 4 of these. Then next the instructions are all here. Next we will piece a 9-patch unit with the rest of the patches. And you'll piece the top row together, the middle row together, and the bottom row together. Then you sew the rows together to make your 9-patch. So let's do that, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to sew the partial seams. Here are the rectangle pieces. They're pieced and pressed. Here is the 9-patch unit. It's pieced and pressed as well. And I'll show you how we put these together. This will go like that, and you see this rectangle piece is longer than this piece. So how do you sew it together? And then the next piece will go like this, and this will go like this, and like this. So you have the partial seam on your very first stitch. So let's move these off to the side. And what you're going to do is flip this over, and you're only going to sew to the end here. So let's flip this over again. I'm looking at the bottom piece that's the smaller piece. I'm going to, once I put these together, I'm going to start here at 1/4 inch and come here to this corner. And I've marked where my seam allowances intersect here. You can see that. I use the Deluxe Corner Trimmer from Marty Michelle in this 90-degree angle. matched these sides, and I used this little hole drilled in the template to mark this line. So this is where the 1/4 inch intersects here and here. So if we put this together, we match this seam here, and we've got those together now, match the top edge. We're going to start here and sew a 1/4 inch and stop right in this where the marking is. And what I like to do is take a few back stitches there because we're going to be moving this around a little bit and I don't want any of the stitches to come out. So you end with your needle right here and then you use a couple of back stitches if you want. Now here's where I just finished sewing, and of course you can't see with the white thread, but if you lift this up, you'll see that the stitching has stopped right at the 1/4 inch. So we have this part open and this is left unstitched. Now let's flip it back over, and we won't press this yet, but I'm going to just press with my fingers, just finger press this side here because this is what we're going to stitch next. If I take the next piece, you'll see now it fits. It's the right size. So we're just going to sew this side, match these seams, and press the seams open. Now this side is pressed open. The seam is pressed open. Let's turn it back around. Here is the next piece that goes like this, and it's the right size. We're going to do this the same way. Now this one has been pressed, and we're going to put this piece on next. But we need to move this flap out of the way. I'm just folding this flap up out of the way and put a pin. Then this piece will be stitched on here. Just make sure that you don't catch this piece of fabric in your seam. So this piece I just stitched on went all the way across, and if we open this up, you'll see here is the little flap, and then we'll open this like that. I need to press this first, and then we'll just pick up this seam and finish sewing that partial seam. And here is our block, and you never would know that there are partial seams in there. Usually when you do partial seams, you're sewing it in a clockwise manner, but sometimes you can be going in the other way. So just lay your block out and see where you have to start, and mark that first little seam where you're going to stop, and then the other seams will just fall right into place. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.